So, question of the video: why do Democrat-run cities do so poorly? Oh man, wrong answers only in the comments, please. Oh man. Besides the obvious, I'm surprised that a city of a size smaller than, let's say, 300,000 people. I would say a city the size smaller than 300,000 people is not able to tolerate the load of being led by a Democrat mayor. And there's just not enough resources for those programs to truly leech off of. We get enough trouble with just, conservative cities with, law enforcement, other types of services. To expect a city or a county to truly balance the books to the point to where the services match its own gross domestic product. Is it still gross domestic product if it's a city? Because there's only so many tax dollars you can pull off of. A city cannot print its own money. Now, a city can post municipal bonds. So maybe that's it. But, man, it's interesting that that's so much in the news right now. Like cities that are Democrat run failing. If you go over to Fox News, it was one of the top headlines I picked out for y'all in this scraping of the bottom of the barrel here. So how does a Democrat-run city do when it's actually solvent? How does New York City actually run? How does Los Angeles actually run? Do they operate in the black? Are they able to keep up with their municipal bonds and their load? Or do they only pop up above water once the state gives them some sort of a grant, or federally they qualify for some grant? It's such an ugly game. So a particular technical college, I'm not going to name names, but a particular technical college that we would normally be able to get automotive technicians from, the quality of individual that graduates from there is not in any way ready to enter the workforce and actually work for us. Seems to me that what's happened is they get money from the state when these kids pass certification and qualification tests. That's how they're compensated, how they're paid back by the state. And the end result is the school itself puts out a person that's not ready to go to work. They're not prepared to rack a car. They aren't prepared to extract bolts. They can't repair wiring yet. They can kind of read a wiring diagram, but not in the context of being ready to go commercially. They throw a bunch of whiz-bang shit at these kids' head, showing, oh, you're only going to work with a scan tool. They're getting further and further away from the nuts and bolts of what actually makes a vehicle go. And that's just not the way the world works. It's not the way the world works in automotive. It's not the way the world works with air conditioning repair. It's not the way the world works with when you're hanging electrical in a house during construction. There's a fundamental process that's still going on. And when the government gets involved too dang much, they get further and further and further away from what really makes things happen. Worst part is I think we're forgetting. Worser still there's too much money going around right now to incentivize the people that can make a difference to get in there and make a difference. You know, a lot of people in my generation that their parents did really well, it seems like they stand to inherit a pretty good chunk of money or a pretty good amount of real estate, to the point to where if they live smart, they don't have to work anymore. Why should they? I saw a thing, it talked about shame. There's just no shame. I remember in American history, they talked about the New Deal, the real New Deal, not the bullshit Green New Deal like we got right now, like the Civilian Conservation Corps and a bunch of other programs that they needed to implement in the 1930s for the Depression. They had people literally unwilling to actually take a handout. So they'd set up these work programs to where one crew would dig a hole, the other crew would fill it in, and they'd pay both of them, but the groups would actually feel as if they had done something productive. There was shame in receiving a free lunch. I'm curious what instilled that in them in the first place. Is it the connection to, we weren't all that far graduated from a true agricultural department, or not so far detached from the you don't work, you don't eat? Bringing me back to Sned and I talking about the emotional support manager and how the articles seem more willing and more concerned about getting a crew through an 8-hour day versus the medicine that everybody's on. I wasn't really sure what the answer was to that. It made me think of in the beginning of Atlas Shrugged, when Dagny's brother and her are talking about getting the Reardon steel so that they could lay more track, and her brother said it wouldn't be fair and the decent thing to do would be to support these other systems and these other things, and Dagny's like, I'm not here to support them, I'm here to make money. And man, we're so far detached from that. And I'm not going to say I'm immune to it myself. A couple years ago, I had a rough patch, and I didn't end up in a dark place, but I was certainly in a bad place. And similar to something Shafe pointed out, it snuck up on me, the work burnout, and I didn't even think anything. You do like a ignore override. You continue to work, and you don't realize until everybody around you starts to see it as you're fizzling out like a balloon going around the room. But there is a difference between being a loan officer and working 60 to 70 hours a week and working through lunch, or working until 7 or 8 o'clock at night finishing estimates and getting things through and covering for your people, compared to having an anxiety issue because your job is to clean up towels at a city pool, but the working in a messy environment isn't conducive to your anxiety. Or are we on the other side of this thing already? Did we truly all walk through that porthole at the same time? I can say I have a nasty habit, and it's most likely something akin to narcissism or some sort of a psychopathy. Once I begin to feel better and once I begin to work hard, it seems like I automatically expect the same from other people. Or when I determine that I'm getting tired and when I feel like I'm working as hard as I possibly can, it's a problem when I don't see the people around me working as hard as I somehow believe that I think they can. What's this got to do with the Democrat-run city? Well, I'll tell you. The money that we're inheriting, I don't think is going to be any good. Because all the dollars in the world ain't going to buy you shit when you're not getting any shipments from China. So that one last piece that somebody has in their warehouse that, you know, you might be able to buy, all of a sudden the price is going to go up. And you're going to see that easily 100% of inflation. How can you quantitatively ease 100% inflation? You know, we had a 400% inflation spike in the construction zone. Now, raw materials such as lumber, I just found out at my hunting lease, the owner of that property was getting ready to log it, but the raw lumber actually dropped 50%. So, just so impossible to predict how everything's going to shake out. And it does go back to, can you hold out long enough for it to shake out? No, because in a Democrat-run city, it never gets a chance to shake out. Things are too big to fail. And that's so upside down. It should have been, this thing's so big, it better fail.